Hello, everyone. Happy Wednesday. Welcome to Crew Talk, brought to you by Shoots.video. I am your host for the evening, Sarah, and I have two lovely guests on the panel today from the Bay Area. We have Marcos and Eli. Hey, guys.
Hello.
Thank you for being with us today. Before we jump into the conversation and questions, I just want to let everyone who's tuning in know if you have any questions or thoughts throughout this panel, you can drop all of those questions in the Q&A box, and we will absolutely get to them as soon as we can. So don't forget to drop them in the Q&A box, and I guess we'll get started. Marcos, Eli, I kind of just go around and have you say who you are, where you are, and just like a brief little description of what you do. So Marcos, you are first on my screen, so I will start with you.
Yeah, so Marcos Rocha, I'm a DP located here in the San Francisco Bay Area. I say San Francisco Bay Area because if you're in the Bay Area, you're kind of working all of the East Bay, the South Bay, all this area. So I do mostly documentaries nowadays and commercials. So that's where I try to focus on.
Great. Well, we are glad to have you with us today. And Eli, hey.
Hello. All right. My name is Eli Shell. I am in Oakland. So that's East Bay. And I'm a writer, director, producer, shooter, editor, motion graphics artist, sound designer, all things video and film. So, and I work kind of all over the Bay, just like Marcus was saying, that's just sort of the deal here. Sometimes it's San Francisco, sometimes Oakland, sometimes South Bay, sometimes it's somewhere else entirely. But I was really kind of focused on as being a shooter for a long time, but I've kind of transitioned into more of a writer, director, producer as well. So
very cool. We're excited to learn more about you today and your journey. So I'm going to start with my list of questions I have here, and I'll start with Marcos again. How did you get started in production? Can you take us from the beginning? Like, what was the spark or the inspiration that got you started and how you got to where you are now?
Right. Well, it's a long story. I mean, just keep it really short. I started looking at YouTube videos, right? Blogs were a thing, many years ago. And I was looking at like Casey Neistat, like, oh, that's pretty cool, making videos. And I started making videos of my own. And that's how I first dabbled into anything doing with video, right? And then slowly transitioned into weddings, filming weddings. And then I discovered you can actually do more corporate and commercial work. And so I started getting into that direction. And slowly I kind of narrowed in on just being a DP. I don't edit really. I don't take on other roles. But in the beginning, I was like, whatever comes my way, I'll take it. I'll do it. I'll get experience. And that was good at the beginning. You need to dabble in everything. That way you understand what is it that you like. And so over time, I've been lucky enough to just dedicate myself to just being behind the camera.
Did you like doing weddings? Because a lot of people are like, no, I won't even touch it.
No, I'm kind of happy. Like it's just, I was always looking for ways to get out of it, but it was the easiest way is to get paid to do video. And it was my way out of my day job. So I'm thankful that I did them. It beats the heck out of having a day job you don't like. So, I'm thankful for them, but I never really loved them.
Cool. Well, we are glad to hear about your journey. And Eli, I'm going to throw it to you if you want to start from the beginning and just tell us how you got to where you are now.
Yeah, great. Thank you. So let's see. I will try to make this as succinct as possible, kind of a circuitous route. Let's see. So I was living in a small town in Northwest Arkansas, this little artist community where my bed and breakfast, graduated from high school, and I was just kind of hanging out there, met someone who was teaching a film class. And so I got involved with that. I ended up directing a short film. That was the spark for me. We wrote it. There's this little team of a bunch of late teens and early 20s. And we wrote and shot a film, and I was hooked, did another one, and got I entered into some festivals, won some local awards, some small local film festivals. And I was like, I should go to school for this. So that was in Northwest Arkansas. Packed up, went to Portland, Oregon, where I went to film school at the Art Institute of Portland. And that's when, much like Marcos, I wanted to learn everything. I think that's key. That's something I tell every person who's starting in filmmaking, video, that sort of thing. Just do everything. Just learn every job, learn how to do everything, and figure out where your niche is. But also, it'll help you be able to talk to people in those other jobs. So then I formed a small production company with some friends while we were still in school. Did some commercials, some promotional videos, nonprofits, stuff like that. And then I got married and decided I should get a real job. And so that was in 2009 and 2010. So not a great time to start a company or try to find a job. But I did. I landed a job at Stanford, which is what brought me down here to the Bay. And I was video producer there for 5 years. And then I am now full-time freelance. I've gone between having full-time gigs, part-time gigs, freelance. It's all kind of just all played together that way. But now I'm full-time freelance.
So you kind of dabbled in it before you were like, oh, okay, I can like really do this and go to school for it and jump into it full time.
Yeah. I loved it. I knew I was, about 21 or so, and I hadn't gone to college, and I was like, I should probably go to college for something. And then I did the film thing, and I was like, yep, this is it. This is it for me. And luckily I was able to get my first paying gig for a commercial while still in college, which was a nice sort of launching pad. I didn't have to do too many weddings. I did some weddings. Everyone's got to pay the bills. But luckily I was able to sort of turn that one gig into another, and then that led me into a full-time position at Stanford.
That's very cool. It's a cool journey that you had going on. So Marcos, what kind of projects are you currently working on?
Yeah, currently mostly doing documentaries. Next month I'm traveling to North Dakota to film a little creative documentary. But here in the Bay Area, it's mostly a lot of corporate commercial type of work. We have the Silicon Valley, right? So that's the kind of work that's out here. But also a lot of documentary work comes here, and so I get brought on for those projects. So I think I'm just again niching down to like just documentaries and commercials, and that's about it, or corporate commercials. That's the stuff that pays the bills, and then there's the creative, I guess, projects that come around. For me now, it's just more like music videos and but those are more rare. I guess I just stick to documentaries, and that's, I think, the path that eventually I might just stop saying no to like corporate stuff and just do all documentaries.
Do you have a favorite documentary that you've worked on so far?
I worked recently on a TikTok documentary.
Oh, that's
and
cool.
yeah, and it was pretty. I like working on that one because the framing was really weird. It was kind of like, have you seen Mr. Robot, where like the person's like down here, their face is like right here?
Yeah,
that's what it was. It's like their face was right here on the edge of frame. And I'm like, wow, I wish we did more creative stuff, more risky stuff, and because most of the time it's like very corporate, and I like taking risks. Once you start doing this a lot, you want to take more risk. You want to do more creative stuff that's a little bit on the edges, as opposed to the cookie cutter way of doing things.
Do you have like a dream documentary or project that you'd like to take some of those bigger risks on that you know of?
Well, usually I'm not spearheading the documentaries. I get brought on different documentaries. So so I'm like just hired for the day or a couple of days of filming to fulfill just a portion of the documentary.
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay.
I'm not necessarily involved with the whole documentary, which is kind of good, because I just want to stick behind the camera. I found that I'm not a producer or director. I kind of dabbled in it, and I was like, oh, this is not for me. I like the creation of an image, right? Not so much like the the cameras and the lighting and all that stuff. That's what excites me, not necessarily the planning that goes behind it, like scheduling and calling crew, and is everyone vaccinated? Is everyone gotten their rapid COVID test? Oh, I need to get that done today for a shoot. Good thing good thing we're talking about it.
Yeah.
All that stuff, all the logistic stuff is not what I like doing, or even conducting interviews. I know it's a skill set, and so there's different people for different things, and I think that I'm just better behind the camera.
Well, obviously you're very good at it.
Yeah, right.
Eli, what about you? Any current projects that you can talk about?
Yeah. Let's see. We're here in the Bay. It's mostly corporate work. There's a lot of tech companies with a lot of money. And that's what most of us do here. So let's see. I got two different projects I've got sort of my biggest client right now is a company called Workday. They do a software for large organizations and stuff. They've done a couple videos for them. I've got a couple more coming up. I'm just in the very sort of early stages of both of those. And those are, I like working with this team at Workday because they give me a lot of creative control. It is what it is. It's a corporate video, but they say, here's what we need. This is the goal of this video. How should we approach it? So I can I write it and I sort of pitch like this sort of approach, and then I sort of craft it in post, and it's great. So I got those two projects. I'm working with a children's toy subscription service, like one of those, you get a box of toys every month sort of thing. And we just had the kickoff call yesterday, and I'm so excited for that. I've got a 4-year-old, so doing something for kids. I always love that sort of thing. So yeah, that's very, very early stages. And then I'm writing a short, a comedy short. That's just it's an excuse to get me into my first virtual production, virtual motion capture production. I've got some techniques that I'm wanting to try out, and got to have a script to do it. So that's what I'm working on right now.
That's pretty cool. And the kids' toy subscription box, like that's brilliant. Like, I don't know why. I've seen that for dogs, but I guess for kids it would work too.
Right. I've bought some of these for friends when they had babies, and they get they get a whole box of things for like 3 months in a row, which is cool. This one is for a little bit older kids, and it's like geography and science focused, which is so cool.
That's neat.
So, yeah. So I'm really excited. Hopefully this is the start of a new relationship, and I'm be doing a lot of work for him, fingers crossed. Let's see how the first one goes. That's kind of, we're all on the same page. Let's do one, but if this goes well, then we'll get more.
Oh, well, we'll keep our fingers crossed for you.
Thank you.
A question that everybody loves to talk about is, the subject of gear. Like, what gear do you have? What are some must-haves? So Marcos, what are some must-have pieces of gear for you?
Yeah, well, obviously, a camera that you can use for different kinds of projects, right? I have the FX9 because that's a highly requested camera for documentaries, and I got it specifically for that reason, and it's works out great. I owned it instead of renting it. I have a bunch of gear. Like, it's ridiculous. It's like I love gear. I love using it. I think the camera, for anyone who's trying to be a DP specifically, you need something that's robust, that's going to last you a long time. And I know it's hard to invest in like a cinema camera from the beginning. And I know that I did for the longest time. I was shooting with DSLRs or mirrorless cameras, and they were fine. They work out great. Like, the technology has gotten so good. So anyone who's starting out or wants to do this kind of work can do incredible work with that. But I am working with agencies or production companies who say, this is the industry standard. Can you show up with that? Do you have the lens? Do you have the standard tripod? So you're ticking off these boxes, right, that you hear a lot. That way you're not questioned about how professional you are, yep. How come you have that camera? How come you don't have the industry standard? I mean, these are all great cameras. Don't get me wrong. It's just for me now. It's more about, all right, let's get the gear out of the way, and so you don't question me. Now let me do my job, which is, to me, the real work is the creative side. And I guess that's why I'm striving to do more like bigger projects, because I can focus more on the camera work as opposed to doing smaller projects. You take on more roles. You wear more hats. You have to set up the lights. You have to dress up the room, and then you have limited time to do that. So by the time you get to be behind the camera, like, wait a minute, I just wasted an hour just blocking off windows because this is a small project. So I mean, to me, I want to do my work at the highest level, and that means that I want to work with crews that can fulfill all these roles. That way I can do my job to the best of my ability.
Warren in the Q&A box has a question for you. He says, have you ever used a camera on set that you wished you owned, or something that made you go out and buy it?
Yeah, like the Red. I guess that's the first camera that people recognize, and you get googly eyed, like, wow, look at that camera. If I had it, my life, I would make it. It's and then down the line, yeah, I mean, I have a Red camera, and it's great, and it's got me work. But it only got me work because I was already networking with the right people, who are the right agencies or producer directors, whoever, who said, hey, Marcos, do you have a Red? And like, no, let's rent it. And they were hiring me more, and like, it just made sense. Instead of renting it and having to go pick it up at a rental house company, I own it, and eventually it pays itself off. So yeah, I think the Red was the first one that like really excited me.
Would you suggest for people who are just starting out to rent first before you buy? Or is it better to own it? Like, if somebody calls you, say,
it
we have
depends. I mean, I don't want you to, like, I don't want someone to hear this just starting out and go out and buy a Red. It doesn't make sense. It's not a good financial advice. It depends where you're at, right? For me, it made sense because I was already, like I said, networking and getting work from people that were expecting me to have a Red, right? So now it's like, okay, now I can get rentals. But I've heard stories on YouTube, people saying, oh, I bought a Red and it was a waste of money. And to me, that tells me maybe they weren't in the right circle. They weren't getting the right, they just didn't have the right connections where they were being requested that camera. I don't buy a camera just because I like it. I buy a camera because it'll do the job I'm trying to do, the type of work I'm trying to do, or it's a requested camera that I'm hearing from people clients that I am working with. So it's more, I guess, it's got to make sense for you financially. It's also, they're very expensive, and I don't think anyone should buy a camera just because they want it, unless it's just, I don't know. It's not an easy question to answer for anyone. It all a case by case basis.
Well, yeah. Eli, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say, that being said, yeah, I wouldn't suggest anyone go out and buy a Red for sure, but it's helpful to have a camera. It's nice to have something that you can just grab and walk out of the door with and start shooting. Like, it's not a roadblock. Oh, I got to go down to the rental house. Oh, I got to fill out this paperwork. Blah blah blah. So I always tell people, get a DSLR. Just get a mirrorless. You can go get an A7S or an A6500. I mean, that's like $900 or $1,000, something like that. Put like get a thrifty 50, get that like $100 50 millimeter lens, stick it on there. For $1,000, you've got a camera that if you work really hard, you can get some incredible content out of it. It'll look great if you just got to, work at it.
Do you own most of your equipment, or do you ever find yourself in a situation where you have to rent equipment?
I generally I own, so I've got an FS7, which is a lot like the FX9, but earlier sort of version of it. Good on you for that FX9. I think that's a workhorse, man. That's a great camera. But I've got an FS7, I've got an A7S, and I've got some lights, I've got some microphones, but invariably I need something. Often it's a teleprompter or a dolly rig or just some extra lights, that sort of thing. So it's nice to have the gear, I have a setup that I can walk out of the house right now and shoot just about anything that was needed, especially if it's an interview. But I'm, to do the things that I want to do, I'm going to have to rent eventually.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
One of the hot topics that we talk to everybody about is how things shifted for you when the pandemic started. So Marcos, when COVID arrived, how did that affect you? Did you have to make a big shift at all? Or did you adjust anything?
Yeah, well, I was actually lucky because I was transitioning out of weddings. I was like months prior, I was declining, and like telling my friend, like, look, I'm getting out of it for this year is the year. And because the people I knew, they were all wedding filmmakers, and I kind of was making a new group of friends that were actually doing more corporate or documentary kind of stuff. And so they knew not to call me really. And so like all the live events, like for the first couple of months, it was just no work from anywhere. But then later on, like 3 months, 4 months into it, like I started getting corporate work. They still needed to pump out content. And so my business picked right up. Actually, I was pretty busy. I mean, it's hard. I mean, sucks to say that, but for people to hear this, but yeah, like my business picked up again. I started getting a lot of work at the end of the year, towards the end of the year. And that was mostly because I wasn't doing weddings anymore. And I know my wedding videographer friends, they took them a long time to get back up from that. But yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it had to do with just having connections, like I try to meet as many people as possible, other filmmakers like myself who are doing the type of work I want to do, or producers, and always staying top of mind. And I think that helped, when the times got tough. Also, like I think I saw during the pandemic is like I would look at Craigslist, I would look at gear, and a lot of people retiring after 20 or 30 years in the industry, or like random people like, oh, I'm selling all my gear because I need money, and I was doing video, and so a lot of people dropped off, which was kind of good for those of us that stuck around.
Yeah, we actually we heard that a lot, or we hear that a lot from people that the pandemic hit, and it sounds weird to say, but their business picked up, their work picked up. You weren't doing it the same way you were before 2020, but they just found a way, and people needed to get content out there for their businesses. And so a lot of people in your industry got a lot of work.
Yep.
Eli, how about you?
A couple months.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a lot of the same lines as Marcos. Right when the pandemic hit, I was half-time at a company, and I was half-time freelance. And I stayed on at the company after the pandemic hit, and they started doing this company that I worked at, they did a lot of corporate events, like big conferences and stuff like that. And all that came to a halt, and it all went on Zoom. And so I was the only person who knew how to like record and edit and all that sort of thing. And so I moved to this Zoom scenario, but this company I work for, their biggest client was going to have this giant conference. Conference is canceled. They got all their money back. They had all this money that they were going to spend, and they were ready to spend it. So they did a whole series of Zoom shows. They would have a little interview with some people, and then they would have a big musical artist come on. And so the first person I talked to on Zoom, it was like week 2 or 3 of the pandemic, was Seal. Like, talk to Seal. Like he just comes on Zoom. I was like, oh my God, it's Seal. And I did his sound check for him. And then I told him that he needed to turn down his piano. And he was like, I think you're right. And then he went and turned it down. He showed me his house. He like turned his computer all around and everything. And surprise, it's a nice house.
Yeah, that's so cool. That's wild.
Yeah. So I did Seal, I did Sheryl Crow, I did the guy from Matchbox 20, like all these big names, and that was super cool. And then I was one of my clients is actually a government organization, San Mateo County, and they needed to get information about COVID out to their people, and they were like, we need a bunch of videos, we don't have a bunch of money. So I was already kind of doing the one-man band thing. That's where this was the sort of transition. I was transitioning from, in freelance work doing the one-man band thing, you know, where I talk to the client, I produce it, I direct it, I shoot it, you know, I edit every possible aspect of it. And so I did a bunch of work for them. I was doing these these cool concerts with these big name artists and everything. But then because of both of those things, I got the opportunity to come on to a YouTube show that was it was all virtual. So this guy that was a host, his name is Carlos Watson from Aussie Media. He was the founder and CEO of Aussie Media. He created this talk show, and he's doing Zoom interviews with these big time celebrities. And since I had this experience, you know, doing Seal and Sheryl Crow and all these different people, you know, it was sort of a no brainer. So I came on, I was helping him do that. And I was a studio producer. So I had a crew of like 3 or 4 shooters and, you know, sound. And it was sort of more of a kind of television environment, which is a little different for me. That's not actually that's not my experience, but it was really cool. And I really enjoyed it. I stayed there for a year, stopped doing freelance, left my other job. And I was there full time until until the end of 2021, September, October of 2021 is when I left there. But that sort of has transitioned me into more of a producer director who can bring on crew and does these sort of larger projects, and has given me some sort of entertainment experience, branded content experience, which that was always sort of my goal. I like corporate video. I actually don't mind doing, but you know, the end goal is like, it sure be cool to like make a television series or make a feature film, you know, that sort of thing. So getting that experience as a studio producer there was just invaluable to me. And so after I left there, I've you know, I found some other clients, and I've, you know, done a few other things, but moving in that direction, producer director for entertainment, for branded content, not just sort of commercials and corporate work and that sort of thing. So it's been a transition from sort of one-man band and part-time at a company to full freelance as a producer director in branded content and in you know, corporate stuff.
That is so cool. Like, what a cool, I mean, not pandemic story, but just like the path that happened for you during the pandemic. We have a question for you in the Q&A box from Doug. Hey, Doug. He asks, do you use storyboards in your production or just work with shot lists?
Both. Depends on the production. I will take a storyboard every time if the budget allows for it. You know, that's always the key. I always start with a shot list, obviously, but yeah, if I can get boards, if I can find a client who's willing to pay for it, and an artist who's willing to come on for that price, I love it. I'll do some boards myself. They're chicken scratch, you know, like thumbnail drawings, but yeah, no, I love a storyboard. I think I directed a commercial back in 2019, or 2 commercials, and that was in a studio, and that was super fun. And what I did was, we went out to a storyboard artist, and then I printed out each frame on, 8.5 by 11, put it on a giant board, and then poster board into the studio. And then as we got each shot, big cross mark through it so everyone can see this is what we're doing. I don't have to explain everything. It's like, I didn't want to go to explain to the gaffer and the DP and every single shot, I was like, this is what we're doing. I just point to this, like, this is what we're doing. See this? The camera's over there. We want to do it like that, right? Okay, let's go. So it's such a great tool if we can afford it.
Very cool. So I want to talk about life lessons or just advice or things you've learned over the years that you think just everybody in your line of business should know, especially people starting out. Marcos, are there any really important life lessons that you've learned along the way, or little bits of advice you would give to someone starting out?
Yeah, I would say get mentorship, make friends with people who are doing the type of work you want to do, and ask them a lot of questions. And I think you want to be open to learning from anyone, basically, right? Or listening to stuff like this on YouTube. Listen. That's what I do on a constant basis. I think I never stop learning. A lot of the lessons I've learned are from other other DPs, and ask them, how would you do this? How much would you charge? That was a big question, is like, how much does this cost? And so there's a huge learning curve, and not just the technical side, but the business aspect. So you also if you're going to freelance, you also have to learn the business side of it, which is not all of us sign up for that piece, but it's essential. Otherwise, you don't get to do this full time. And that was the hardest thing for me. That's why I had a part-time job and I was freelancing on the side for a couple of years. And luckily I've been doing this full time for a couple of years now, but it was just knowing how to charge, how to carry a conversation, and how to be comfortable with the bigger numbers. I think all of this, the read books on negotiating. There's the master class on negotiating. Have you seen that one? That's really good.
Yeah, it is good.
I mean, and that's just, there's different theories on how to negotiate. So it's just like, don't, spread your wings and try to learn as much as you can, not just the artistry of filming, or if you're trying to be a DP, don't just learn the artistry. I've seen that work for a lot of people where they're a pure artist, and that works. They work for a production company and they don't have to worry about how much things are going to cost and how to bring in business and all that stuff. I mean, I always envied that from the beginning. That's what I wanted. I didn't want to learn any of the business side, but it didn't work out that way. I had to freelance. And so that forced me to learn all these new skill sets that otherwise I wouldn't have learned if I had worked at a production company.
I think the business side of freelance is so important because it is such a huge part of it. I come from the voiceover world, and as a freelancer, I mean, I know just that was also a part that I was like, I don't want to do this. Like, I just want to record, I just want to, turn out those jobs. But it is so important, and knowing your worth and what to charge also so important. I know for us, there is like a standard things that are non-union. There is like a standard rate guide that a lot of voiceover artists go off of. For you guys, how do you determine your rate? Is there a suggested rate card or website online you can reference, or is it kind of just up to you?
Yeah, I mean, I'll take a crack at it. I think that for me, I kind of came upon my rate based on asking other people other DPs, how much are you charging? And so that I have to develop some kind of trust there, right? They're telling you. But a lot of people are hesitant to share those numbers. And I think it does a disservice to everyone because you don't know that you're undercutting everybody, or that you could earn more if you just charge the proper rate, right? Mm-hmm. And so, don't make friends. Like I said, make friends with people who are doing the type of work you want to do. Ask them, and you kind of figure out, where am I at their skill level, or am I not at their skill level, right? And you kind of you got to be humble about where you're at, right? I'm not going to charge what a super high-end DP is charging, because maybe my skill level is not there. Maybe I could pull it off, but it is just for the most part, I think you also want to be cognizant, because I'm dealing with agencies and they kind of know where things fall. And they deal with a lot of people like myself, so they kind of have like the expected rate. They're already budgeted beforehand, before even they come to me, right? And if I'm too cheap, they're like, why is this guy so cheap? Next, Yep. And if you're too high for your skill level, you're like, that guy's on crack. Next. So you kind of, you gotta like be very you got to know where you're at, in life, and your skill level and your market. Are you in LA? Are you in the Bay Area? Are you in Dallas? Wherever you're at. And so the rates vary depending on the cities or the regions.
Absolutely. And I think transparency in rates is super important, because it does let everybody see, where you're at, where you should be. Are you undercharging? Because if people are, going undercharging, then it affects everybody, because then clients get used to paying that rate, and they just want that rate, when it's like, no, everyone should kind of be living here and based on skill, moving up, whatever. So I think I agree with you that it's something that you should talk about.
Yeah, think about it. I mean, it's human nature. We all love getting a deal. When I go to buy a TV, there's a market for everybody. There's people that want the highest price thing. There's one, maybe you want something mid-tier, like, no, I want the cheapest TV because I'm in college and I can't afford anything else, right? So there's a market for everything. And so you kind of get what you pay for, in a sense. And then another thing is you got to understand what kind of client you're dealing with. If you're dealing for the small mom and pop store or a shop, they're not going to have a big budget like a Silicon-based company. And so therefore, you can charge more if you're talking to a marketing manager who has this much allocated to this project, and it's not their money, as opposed to the owner of that store that you're trying to pitch a video to. It's a harder sell. And that took me a long time to understand. I didn't have a business like understanding of like how people, the psychology of money and how it works and the budgets and all that stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, 100% agree. I think it's similar for all freelancers across the, creative field. But I agree 100% with what you are saying. We have 3 questions in the Q&A box. I want to make sure I get to them. So I'm going to read Warren's question. It says, as we all know, a lot, not all, of corporate work can be quite boring and clients aren't willing to get creative. I always find myself stuck doing thousands of interviews, B-roll, etc., only because it pays the bills. As a DP who does a lot of corporate style videos, how do you find yourself maintaining your creativity or your drive to be creative? And neither one of you can answer.
I don't know. I just talked. Do you want to take a crack at it?
Go for it, Eli.
I do a lot of interview and B-roll. I do a lot. I know exactly what this guy is talking about. It is difficult to get out of that. The key is to make the work, do the work you want to make. So if you're stuck in a rut doing the same thing over and over and over again, go out and make the thing that you want to make that doesn't have a client attached to it. I know that's a bummer to hear that, like, well, I gotta go out and work for free. Well, it's for yourself. It's an investment in yourself, and it's going to be fun. That's why we got into this, right? I mean, like, you want to have fun, so make something that you like, make something that you enjoy. Put that on your reel, put it on your website, and like, it could be a spec commercial, it could be a narrative, it could be any number of things. It could be just some cool experiments that you want to do, and then put it out on social. Make the thing that you want to make and then put it out there. And eventually you will get clients who say, yeah, I want that. I want that thing right there. It works the same way in Hollywood. Everyone gets pigeonholed into this is what you do. And every producer in Hollywood goes, like, oh, you make things that I want? Okay, I want you. Like, and then I don't want to do that anymore. Well, I don't care. I want this thing, So again, just go out and make the thing you want to make.
Well, thank you for answering that one. We have 2 more questions about rates again. So we're going to jump back. Eli, I'll throw the rate questions to you. Selena asks, do you change rates depending on the project?
I try not to. I generally try to hold to my day rate, and then use that day rate as a sort of guide for sort of everything that I do, because I do quite a bit. When I'm shooting, it's like, this is my day rate. It comes with this equipment. That's my time, And so if I'm editing, I know it's going to take a half a day to edit this thing. You get a half a day rate, So I generally try not to. If it is something that I really believe in, then I might, but I never. So this is here. I know we didn't. I know this isn't the advice question, but one, I've got a ton of advice things I love to tell people. But
tell us all of it. We'll listen to it all.
Okay, so one of them is if you take a client, if a client comes to you and you tell them you're right, like, oh, that's too much. Can you come down? I'm going to give you more work in the future. Like, they will ask for that rate every time. Like, you are chained to that rate forever and ever. Amen. Like, that's just the way it is. So if you're okay with that rate, if you're okay with taking that rate from that client for a long time, then yeah, I guess go for it. But generally, when I hear those words, that's a hard no for me. Just like, oh, no, there's a lot of shooters out there who will do it for that rate. Good luck finding them. They go, oh, do you know anybody? I go, no, don't know anybody. I'm not gonna push this pain onto somebody else, especially like a friend or a colleague. So no, I try not to change my rates.
Marcos, what about you? Do you kind of keep the same rate throughout?
Yeah, I try to be, and I'm like a hard line, like this is the minimum. Obviously, there's a little wiggle room depending on the type of work, but I know like I don't want to, like I have a minimum threshold, like I'm not going to cross this. And you got to understand, like I'm nowadays, I'm trying to do more jobs that are bigger scale. And I'm slowly kind of saying no to the smaller projects or just getting brought on as a camera operator. I'm like, it's not really, I'm just showing up, pointing at a camera. I don't want to do that anymore. And I know it's like all of us are here in the Bay Area. It's expensive to pay the rent. And you often think about these things like, well, I need the money. I could pay the rent, right? But there's I think we also, as myself, I feel like I need downtime in order to make more space for the type of work I want to do. Because I can fill my time with stuff I don't want to do, which takes away from the stuff I really want to do. And so it's necessarily not everything's about money. So I think it's more about what I want to do for the future, what excites me, gets me out of bed, and which often means like I might do something cheaply if I really love the project. Like, ooh, that's exciting. And which often happens, I might work on a short film because it's really exciting and there's no pay. And that's fine. Hey, we're going to shoot anamorphic lenses, which you can't do with corporate jobs. You can't take many risks. So I guess another point I wanted to touch on is like, I do get a lot of like back to that question about most corporate jobs are pretty boring. And sometimes I just get brought on as the client is expecting something very basic just for me to show up. And I always try to give them way more for my own sake. Meaning, am I going to be proud of this? Is this real worthy? Like, is this something I would be proud to show? Or just for my sake, am I proud of this shot? And if I'm not, like, I might come in extra early. I push the client, like, look, I'll come in extra early. I'm going to make it look beautiful, make it look nice. And you might not expect it, but it doesn't matter. It's for me, and that I'm scaling up the level of production I'm doing because that in return will get me better work. That makes sense?
Yeah,
as opposed
absolutely.
to like the budget is this and I'm giving you this. Like, no, if the budget is this, I'm giving you this because this will give me that over there. So I think about it in that terms as well.
Yeah, no, that totally makes sense. Do you guys in your field, do you work with agents or managers who are working like on your behalf to get you work? Are you like representation?
That's the dream.
Okay.
That's the dream. That's the dream.
So there are agencies that, are solely looking for work for you.
That's the goal. That's what I'm working towards. But I don't have representation at this point, but hope to.
So when you're seeking representation, what are some things that those agencies look for? Is it a reel with this, and this, or this many years of experience? What exactly do those agencies look for?
So in my experience, sort of going back to the question about like boring corporate stuff, agencies are looking for people who do this thing. Like, oh, we need a music video director. So they look for someone who's got a ton of music videos on their reel. Like, oh, we need a not just a commercial director, but like a car commercial director or a beauty products commercial director. And I keep saying director, but producers as well and shooters and that sort of thing. Those are the larger agencies, and you can come on at a production company. And then you get a little bit more breadth of work. But I find that agencies, and I don't have as much experience with managers, but agencies generally, they're looking for that thing that they're looking for this specific thing. And if you don't fit that box, then, on to the next guy.
What about you, Marcos?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have representation. I think that usually people that have representation are like the cream of the crop kind of people. They are working the big crews, and I don't think I'm quite there. I'm working more on the medium-sized crews, like, I don't know, from a single person myself to, I don't know, 6 people, and it depends. Like the on the camera department, I usually it's just myself and a camera assistant or a focus puller, stuff like that. But once you get a representation, you're probably working like 20 plus crew, kind of like that level of production, and you need to have a couple of those under your belt. And I think that's the real challenge for myself as a DP who's trying to make that kind of work, is how do you get that level of trust if you have not worked on those sets or like spearheaded. Like I've worked as a camera assistant or a camera operator, but not spearhead as a DP, those bigger productions. And so it's experience and also your portfolio, right? It has to match a certain level of quality before I guess they start reaching out to you.
Absolutely. But it's just something, I guess, that takes time, like anything. You put in the work and eventually it all pays off. As we get closer to ending today, I wanted to ask, where do you see your industry going in the next few years? Are there any major changes that you're noticing that's happening, or things that you have to kind of adapt to that are new that would be coming along?
Yeah,
I'm interested in Eli. What I'm interested in what Eli has to say.
I'm super stoked about virtual production. That's sort of I'm writing this blog post right now as we're going on today about how we're sort of at the same spot right now that when the Red 1 came out. I know you've got a red over there, Marcos. But do you remember when the Red 1 came out? This is like 2008, 2009, 2010, something like that. It was like every film nerd, every camera nerd was just like jaw on the floor, drooling over this thing, like, oh my God, this is gonna change the way we do things, and everyone was so excited about it. And I went on some shoots as a PA and as an AC and stuff like that with the Red, and like it's definitely, it was a cool camera and everything, but no one outside of the industry really cared about the Red, the new camera. It's like, no, you don't understand. We're talking 4 or 6K resolution, interchangeable lenses, and blah blah blah. But people loved the Book of Eli, right? That was shot on the Red 1, and so like that's where we are with virtual production right now. I think there's a lot of people in the industry who are like super, super excited about it. What matters is the content that is created from it, and so I'm really excited about virtual production. I try not to get too focused on the tools because I still just want to make great content. I think that's the key. That's kind of what I'm getting at here. But the democratization of real-time 3D rendering, motion capture technology for both camera and body tracking, face tracking, all that stuff is really, really exciting. It's come down in price now where not like just anybody can afford it, but people who are investing in themselves and investing in this technology can start to afford it. I mean, we're talking about with Unreal integration. We all saw The Mandalorian, right? And the behind the scenes on it, and the LED wall and everything. They used Unreal, the software Unreal, to make those backgrounds happen. And you can get a machine that can make that happen for like $5,000 or $6,000. So you got to get the LED wall or a green screen. I mean, there's a lot more that goes into it than that. But it's no longer just the purview of like Marvel and Disney and Lucasfilm, which is all Disney, I guess. But so that's what I'm really excited about right now for the future: virtual production, motion capture technology, and the sort of democratization of the technology to allow not just people at the top to do this sort of stuff.
Yeah,
that was an awesome answer. Solid.
Well, I mean, I think that's the most exciting thing that I'm hearing about as well. But like on a smaller scale, I think what I saw since the pandemic also is just more remote productions. Directors are not flying in, or producers are not flying in, and they're like, can you just show me the camera angle through Zoom? And I plug it and they can hear the voice and they just conduct the interview remotely. And I think that I do that a lot, just on the, which is great. Sometimes it's just, you don't have the producer director looking at you, just seeing how you're working. And so you just see them, you connect the camera to Zoom and then off they go, so it's definitely sped up productions. And I think that just the current way of things, we're just consuming a lot of content, which is great for all of us who, especially for documentaries, any kind of like, I guess documentaries are things that can be produced cheaper than, I guess, TV show series, right? Because documentaries, you can have an interview and they can use stock footage and all this, like whatever, and they can make long form content, which is great. So I'm involved in some of those productions, and so I love doing it, and I I want to do more of it.
Yeah, man, remote has really kind of changed the game. That's what I was doing at the Carlos Watson show. I was on one side of that where I was in the studio and I was, facilitating the feed, the camera feeds going out to the producers and the directors who were often in LA. And then early this calendar year, right around the January, I produced a show from my house, sitting right here. We had a host for a show, and she was in Portland, but it was a CES show, which was in Vegas. And we had people zooming into the show. We had like Steve-O. I got to talk to Steve-O, which was fun. And we had different celebrities coming in from all over. And then we had reporters who were in New York. So, I mean, it was just like every direction. And it was so fun. It was so cool to be able to talk to these different people in all these different spots. And also, like, I'm on the phone with like the DP, like, yeah, we need to push in a little bit, and then it just happens. Like, I love remote. And like, it's really changed the game for sure.
That's awesome. And you got to talk to Steve-O. Like, that's so cool. You got to talk to some really cool people.
Yeah, man. Steve-O is really nice. He did the whole thing laying in bed with his dog. It was hilarious. Like, and he was so chill. I was trying to get off. I was like, okay, that's our time. Thank you. And he was like, oh, I can hang out if you guys want to keep talking. I was like, no, I didn't know what to do.
That's awesome. That's super cool. We do have another question, and both of you can answer this if you'd like. What do you do differently on set between a camera operator versus a DP?
Yeah, I think a DP, I think, oversees a whole image, right? Says we're gonna do a light here. I want it to look this way. That window's too bright. Let's cut it. And it's talking to the gaffer or the grip, and like, let's put a hair light. Let's do this. Let's do that. Camera operator might not take on so much of that responsibility. They might just be behind the camera, and they might take orders from the DP saying, "Hey, can you give me more headroom?" So, in this like movie production, Hollywood, the DPs often don't touch the camera. They have camera operators and just tell them exactly how they want things. But DPs, sometimes, like myself, I like having control. So I like touching the camera. As part of the reason I signed up for it, becoming a DP. I want that, plus the responsibility of shaping the light and any kind of movement that we're doing. I kind of like, you work with the director to work out the plan. So it's very integrated with the director and gaffer. So it's just, you kind of become there's just more responsibility that's involved with it. More planning. You're more involved in the planning of the shoots. Yeah.
Eli, do you have anything you want to add to that?
No, that's pretty much it. The DP's the one in charge. The gaffer reports to the DP, and then the camera operator will report to the DP. They're the ones who are, like you said, shaping the image. The director and the director of photography talk about how they're going to make it happen. And then they go off. The director goes and talks to talent and producers about what. DP goes talks to gaffers and ACs and camera ops. And then sometimes in like LA productions, it's just a matter of how much you get paid. Like they don't want to pay you a DP rate, so they're going to pay you a camera operator rate, which is not the best way to go about it, but it is sometimes the deal.
Yeah. We have discussed a lot today. We've covered a lot of topics, and your answers have been wonderful. Thank you guys so much, both of you, for being here today and giving all the advice that you did. We always end each panel, each webcast, just once again saying who you are, where people can find you, whether it's Instagram, your website you want to promote. If there is anything specific you want to promote, you can go ahead. And if you can also type it into the chat box as well so people can find you on social. And Marcos, I will start with you.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to see more of my work or reach out, you can find me on my website, marcosdp.com, marcosdp.com. Also have a YouTube channel where I do like gear reviews and tutorials and behind the scenes of stuff. That's on youtube.com/Marcos Rocha TV, MARCOSROCHA TV.com. No, just Rocha TV, not .com at the end.
Very cool.
Yeah,
Awesome.
You can find me there. You can also find me through my website. So
very cool. Well, thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you, Sarah.
Yeah, Eli, go for it.
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram and LinkedIn. LinkedIn's probably going to be your best bet. Sadly, my website broke like earlier this week. I was in a mad dash to try to fix it today, and I decided to stop trying to fix it. Don't go to my website right now. But if you do, go on to my website in a few days. It's just elishell.com. And so just go there. But I'm also on Vimeo. And then, yeah, LinkedIn is probably going to be your best bet for connecting with me.
Very cool. We will not visit your website today, but maybe on Friday. We'll see.
Okay. There you go.
Marcos, don't forget to get your rapid COVID test.
Oh, that's right. Damn it. I blank out, like I was so into this conversation, but thank you for reminding me.
Of course. No, this was super fun. Thank you guys so much. And for everybody out there, I'm Sarah Marintz. You can find me at sarahmarintz.com and Sarah Marintz on Instagram. I'm here for all your voiceover needs. All right, guys. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful rest of your week.
Thanks, Sarah.
Bye. You might be looking at ShootStop Video and thinking, so how does this all work? Is this about A, setting up the whole crew for me, B, just giving me options and having me handle it, or C, something in between? Well, it's D, all of the above. To put it simply, we're here to help you in any way that we can to get the crew and talent you need for your next production. We believe that every level of video production can benefit from a well-maintained list of qualified crew members for every position. This goes for pre-pro, on-set, and for post. Every project is different, so if you need a producer to help manage the decision-making process, then we can totally do that. If you're already a producer and want to build your own crew from scratch, then go for it. We're here to make your next production a success. And if you are crew or talent looking for producers that want you, then you've come to the right place. Sign up now, and also leave a referral for any solid people that you know that are already on here. Thank you for considering ShootStop Video, and happy shooting!